Welcome to yet another edition of TV Africa News. This is Africa Today. My name is Najma Lima, but first are the headlines. Museveni names new Public Service Commission bosses. Uganda to start vaccinating children between 12 to 17 years against COVID-19. East African leaders are back deployment of regional force to Congo. Lutalo names Crested Crane's final squad for Women Africa Cup of Nations. Welcome once again. Now the news in detail. President Museveni has exercised his constitutional powers by naming a new team to head the Public Service Commission. In a letter to the Speaker of Parliament, Museveni has, by virtue of powers given to him as President under Article 165(2) of the Constitution, appointed a team of 9 members to head the Public Service Commission. We have more. The team comprises of Win Agnes Kabogoza Massacre as the chairperson to replace Justice Raphael Ochan, who served in the position since 2014, as well as Francis Oliang Lagoni as the deputy chairperson to replace former presidential principal private secretary Dr. Hilda Musubira, who died in April. Museveni has also named Grace Tuwita, Hajat Kamulegeya, Jamila Mugisa Michael, Bengina Muchibi, Titus Chisambira Mutanda, Olana Emmanuel Olum, and Ada Kabarokore Muwanga as members to the commission. Museveni forwarded their names and curriculum vitae to Speaker Among for parliamentary approval. The same has also been copied to the Vice President, Prime Minister, and Minister for Public Service. Established under Article 165, Cap 1 of the 1995 Constitution, the Public Service Commission is charged with appointment, confirm in appointments, promote and exercise disciplinary control over persons holding office of the public service under Article 172 of the Constitution. Opposition Democratic Party has urged arts and science teachers to work together for the good of their profession. DP spokesperson Okolel Opio, who addressed journalists on Tuesday, emphasized that both science and arts teachers can cause the government to react positively to their demands if they are together.
On Sunday, the national chairperson of the Uganda Professional Science Teachers Union, Vincent Elong, expressed concern at Saturday's developments that saw the Ugandan National Teachers Union resolve to continue with their industrial action. This followed a meeting that the Ugandan National Teachers Union held with the president to try and resolve a crisis in which teachers of the humanities disputed a government decision to only enhance the pay of science teachers. Elong said the government's latest decision to consider a review of the decision to enhance science teachers' salaries is unjustified, and they expect their improved pay at the start of the financial year.
In the first budgeting process in September, that's when we expect a serious group to start monitoring to ensure that there is no deviation. So we are telling our teachers this journey that UNATU is taking is just to disorganize the country, to blackmail the country, and because if they were to negotiate, they would have come earlier during the budgeting process. They are attempting what is not achievable, and they are just disorganizing school and disadvantaging our children.
However, today, while addressing journalists at their party headquarters in Kampala, DP spokesperson Okolelo Pio said the divisions between science and arts teachers have created a crisis amongst them. He advised teachers to work together in order to enable government to respond positively to their demands.
Because the bigger the group, the bigger the impetus it exerts of government, there is absolutely no need for these teachers to begin fighting among themselves. They should work together. After all, their absolute aim is one. They should not allow divisions that were intended by government to divide them. At the end of the day, they are the losers and the country does lose too.
Teachers under their umbrella body, the Ugandan National Teachers Union UNATU, last week vowed to lay down tools over what they described as proposed discriminatory salary enhancement.
As the vaccination for COVID-19 continues across the country, government has approved the vaccination for children between the age of 12 to 17 years. These will be vaccinated with Pfizer upon the consent of their parents. Ahumuza has more.
Reading the weekly cabinet decisions at Uganda Media Center in Kampala, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, the Minister for ICT and National Guidance, revealed that government has agreed to go ahead and vaccinate children between 12 to 17 years against COVID-19, which is at a surge in the country. However, Baryomunsi says that for this to be effected, it requires the consent of the parents, thus calling upon the parents to comply. He further warned the parents against misinformers who brand the vaccination process negatively, saying the vaccine is safe. According to Baryomunsi, the country is likely to enter into the fourth wave of COVID-19 as the positivity rate has increased from 1% in January to 3.9% in June 2022, urging Ugandans to comply to the standard operational procedures. Meanwhile, the minister has also revealed that government has dispatched a team of ministers and members of parliament to their respective constituencies to mobilize and sensitize locals on the parish development model.
Let's go for a quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. East African leaders agreed on Monday to set up a regional force to try to end the conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo and called for an immediate ceasefire. The mineral-rich DRC is plagued by dozens of armed groups in the east, most of which are legacy of two regional wars a quarter century ago.
The announcement was made by the Kenyan presidency at the end of a meeting on Monday in Nairobi of the 7 members of the East African community devoted to the security situation in this very troubled region. The Kenyan presidency continued that the heads of state called for an immediate ceasefire to be implemented and for the cessation of hostilities to begin immediately. The mineral-rich DRC is plagued by dozens of armed groups in the east, most of which are a legacy of two regional wars a quarter century ago. A resurgence of tension in the east in recent weeks has rekindled animosity between the DRC and Rwanda, with Kinshasa blaming its neighbor for the resurgence of the March 23rd movement rebellion, accused of killing at least 26 Congolese soldiers in an attack in January. Kinshasa accuses Kigali of supporting this predominantly Tutsi rebellion, which Kigali denies. The M23 was defeated in 2013, but took up arms again in late 2021, blaming Congolese authorities for failing to comply with an agreement to demobilize and reintegrate its fighters. Clashes between the M23 and the Congolese army have caused thousands to flee to neighboring Uganda. In addition to Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, the meeting was attended by Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi, Rwandan President Paul Kagame, as well as the leaders of Burundi, South Sudan, Uganda, and the Tanzanian ambassador in Nairobi.
Moving on, China offered on Monday its mediation for the settlement of disputes in the Horn of Africa at the opening of a conference with the countries of this region plagued by conflicts where it has many interests. The first conference, China Horn of Africa on Security, Governance and Development, brings together until Tuesday in Addis Ababa, China, represented by its special envoy for the Horn of Africa, Zhu Bing, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Kenya, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan and Uganda, represented by a minister or an ambassador. Eritrea, invited, was not present. Zhu Bing, whose appointment in February showed Beijing's determination to get involved diplomatically in this region plagued by various conflicts, including Ethiopia, Somalia, and South Sudan, said that he is ready to provide mediation for the peaceful settlement of disputes based on the will of the countries in this region. The United States withdrew Ethiopia in November from a major trade agreement, the AGOA, because of human rights abuses in the conflict between the government and rebels in the Tigray region since November 2022, and imposed sanctions on Eritrea in 2021 because of its involvement in the conflict. During a visit to Asmara in January, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi expressed China's opposition to U.S. sanctions against Eritrea, a closed country living under an authoritarian regime. Mr. Zhu said he was convinced that the Horn of Africa has the capacity to resolve its differences through dialogue and consultation, even if some differences are difficult to understand because they date back to colonial times.
Away from that, Senegal's main opposition leader on Monday called for a fresh demonstration to be held on June 29th, despite the previous one being banned on the East-wing clashes, leaving 3 dead. Ousmane Sonko, who came third in the last presidential election, also called on citizens to bang pots and pans in protest on Wednesday.
Speaking during the press conference, the PASTEF party leader Ousmane Sonko said that on the 29th, with or without authorization, they are going to organize their demonstration. He added that if President Macky Sall wants to prevent that affair, he should be ready to arrest them or terminate them. On Friday, clashes in Dhaka and the southern region of Kosmas left 3 people dead, according to local media and the opposition. Young people defied a ban on demonstrations that the opposition had planned after authorities disqualified its national list of candidates for upcoming legislative elections. Police had banned the protests, citing the risk of unrest. Tensions have been growing since Senegal's highest court on June 3rd upheld a decision to disqualify the national list of a technicalist. Sonko and other opposition figures who had been on the list are now sidelined from the July 31st election. The opposition has threatened to prevent the vote from taking place if the list is not reinstated, raising fears that tensions could spill over. On Friday, police prevented Sonko from leaving his street to demonstrate, while 4 other opposition figures were arrested.
Suspected jihadists have massacred more than 130 civilians over the weekend in central Mali. The government announced the dates on Monday after alarming social media reports talked of houses and huts being burnt and of abductions. Let's take a look.
Local officials described scenes of systematic killings by armed men in Diala Sago and 2 surrounding towns in the Bakers Circle, a hotbed of militant violence. Nahom Togo, who lives in the main town in the area, managed to escape the killings. Nahom Togo, president of the USR party and friend to victims, said that when the militants came, they asked for the people who are not Muslims in the Fulani language and took them out at 2-kilometer range and systematically shot them. He added that their mutilated bodies were discovered the next day. Since 2012, Mali has been rocked by an insurgency by groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the so-called Islamic State group, plunging the country into crisis. Violence that began in the north has since spread to the center and to neighboring Burkina Faso and Niger. Civilians are often subjected to reprisals by jihadists who accuse them of collaborating with the enemy.
Let's once again go for a short break. We will be right back.
Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. In our business news today, Kenya's cat producers are eager about the resumption of their business after the activity was banned due to COVID-19 pandemic. For decades, over 500,000 people in this region have lived by the rhythms of khat, a mildly narcotic native shrub, also known as mira.
Mogadishu initially banned air cargo in March 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic, but diplomatic tensions between Kenya and Somalia have kept the ban in place even as other COVID-19 restrictions have been lifted. The election of President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed in Somalia last month raised hopes of a thaw in ties with Nairobi, and on 10th June, Kenyan Agriculture Minister Peter Munyu announced that Mogadishu had agreed to resume air shipments of khat. The news has sparked cautious excitement in Mau, where people are increasingly impatient for change. Chimathi Munjuri, chairman of the Nyambene Mira Traders Association in central Kenya, said that the resumption of trade would be like a rebirth for the region. But he remained circumspect, noting that similar announcements in the past never materialized into facts on the ground. He said that prior to the ban, around a third of the 150 tons of khat shipped daily went to Somalia, representing a loss of earnings of up to 16 million Kenyan shillings. Somalia has been a crucial export market for Kenyan khat traders ever since the Netherlands and Britain imposed a ban in 2012 and 2014 respectively, joining the ranks of other Western nations which classify it as a drug.
In our health news today, developing countries have won a 5-year waiver of patents of vaccines against COVID-19. The decision follows intense negotiations at the World Trade Organization on a Friday, where the 164-member body announced the decision.
The agreement is intended to allow local factories to produce vaccines or the ingredients necessary to make them without the consent of the patent holders. Vaccines can then be exported to other developing countries. Since the start of the pandemic, South Africa and India have reportedly denounced inequalities in access of vaccine doses in what has been called a vaccine apartheid. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the 7th Director General of the WTO, congratulated the ministers, ambassadors, senior officials and secretariat staff for making the waiver a success. According to the World Health Organization, 60% of the world's population has received 2 doses, but the situation is still inequitable with only 17% of the population vaccinated in Libya, 8% in Nigeria and less 5% in Cameroon.
In our sports news today, Crested Cranes head coach George Lutalo has on Tuesday morning announced the final squad that will represent Uganda at the forthcoming Total Energies Women Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Lutalo confirmed a list of 26 players in a press conference held at Fufa House, Mengo. Ahumsa with more.
The final Crested Crane squad comprises of 3 goalkeepers, including 7 defenders, 6 midfielders and 10 forwards. The surprise omission for many has been striker Juliet Nalukenge, who features for Cyprus outfit Apollon Ladies FC. Lutalo dismissed rumors that Nalukenge has been left out due to indiscipline. The contingent will depart Uganda for Morocco on Wednesday morning, and the team will have a 10-day training camp in Marrakesh. Uganda is in Group A alongside host Morocco, Burkina Faso and Senegal. Among the players in the Crested Crane squad is Ruth Aturo of Katkan Tioven Poloilija FC Finland, Vanessa Edis Karungi of B93 Denmark, Daisy Nakaziro of Uganda Matters High School, Lubaga, Uganda. Asia Nachiwuko of Kawempe Muslim, LFC, Uganda. Hasfa Nasuna of UCU Lady Cardinals, FC, Uganda. Viola Nambi of FC Danman Ladies, Australia, among others.
That was the news. Thank you for always keeping it TV Africa. Please do stay tuned. More programming coming your way.